More heart attacks happen between 6 in the morning and noon than at any other time of day. Subscribe to this channel for new health videos made specifically for you. Not in the afternoon, not late at night, in the morning, in the first few hours after you wake up. And the reason is not random. It is not bad luck, it is biology. And it is made significantly worse by 4 specific morning habits that millions of people over 60 repeat every single day without ever connecting them to what they are doing to their heart. By the end of this video, you will know all 4. You will understand exactly why each one is dangerous. And you will have a simple replacement for every single one that costs you nothing. Let me start with what is happening inside your body the moment you wake up. While you sleep, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, your blood flows more gently, and your cardiovascular system is in its most relaxed state of the entire day. Then the alarm goes off. Within minutes of waking, your body releases a surge of stress hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones prepare you to face the day. Blood pressure climbs sharply. Heart rate accelerates. Blood vessels tighten. And here is the critical detail. Blood becomes temporarily more likely to clot. This is called the morning surge, and it is a completely normal physiological process. But after 60, that surge lands on a cardiovascular system that has less reserve than it did at 40. Arteries are stiffer. Plaques that have been building quietly for decades are more vulnerable to rupturing. And the heart has less margin to handle sudden spikes in demand. The morning surge itself does not cause heart attacks. What causes heart attacks is the morning surge combined with habits that add additional stress to a system that is already at its daily peak of cardiovascular strain. That is the combination that kills, and 4 very common morning habits do exactly that. Habit number 1. Jumping out of bed the moment you wake up. This is perhaps the most universal morning habit on this list. The alarm sounds, you throw back the covers, swing your legs over the side and stand up. For a 25-year-old, that is fine. For someone over 60, that sudden transition from horizontal to vertical is a genuine cardiovascular event. Here is what happens. When you are lying down, blood is distributed relatively evenly throughout your body. The moment you stand, gravity immediately pulls roughly 500 to 700 milliliters of blood downward toward your legs and lower body. Your cardiovascular system has to compensate instantly. Blood pressure drops briefly in the upper body and brain. Your heart has to pump harder and faster to correct it. Your blood vessels have to constrict rapidly to push blood back upward. In a young, healthy cardiovascular system, this compensation happens in under 30 seconds and you never notice it. After 60, those compensation mechanisms are slower. Blood vessels are stiffer and respond more sluggishly. The correction takes longer, and during that window where your brain is temporarily receiving less blood flow, you are at risk of dizziness and falls. More importantly, the sudden demand placed on the heart at the exact moment when morning cortisol is already elevated and blood is already more prone to clotting creates a genuine spike in cardiac workload. Studies have shown that the risk of orthostatic hypotension, the technical term for this blood pressure drop on standing, increases significantly with age and is directly associated with higher rates of cardiovascular events. The fix takes 30 seconds and costs nothing. When your alarm goes off, do not move immediately. Lie still for 30 to 60 seconds. Let your body begin the waking process gradually. Then sit up slowly. Remain seated on the edge of your bed for another 30 seconds before standing. Let your cardiovascular system make the transition at a pace it can actually manage. That is it. 1 minute of patience every morning that gives your heart the time it needs. Habit number 2. Drinking coffee immediately after waking. This one surprises people because coffee has genuine health benefits that are well documented. Reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. Better cognitive function. Antioxidants. For most adults, moderate coffee consumption is associated with lower cardiovascular risk overall. But here is the specific problem with timing. Caffeine is a stimulant. It raises heart rate. It raises blood pressure. It triggers a mild additional release of adrenaline. Now consider what is already happening in your body in the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking. Cortisol is at its natural daily peak. The morning surge has already pushed your blood pressure and heart rate upward. Your cardiovascular system is already working harder than it will at any other point in the day. Adding caffeine at that exact moment does not give you an energy boost on top of a rested system. It adds a pharmacological stimulant on top of a system that is already at peak cardiovascular stress. The result is an additive spike. Blood pressure and heart rate climb higher than they would from either the cortisol surge or the caffeine alone. A study published in the journal Hypertension found that caffeine consumption during the peak cortisol window, roughly 30 to 90 minutes after waking, produced significantly greater blood pressure elevation than the same amount of caffeine consumed later in the morning when cortisol had naturally declined. For someone over 60 with any degree of arterial stiffening or existing hypertension, that additive spike matters. It adds workload to the heart at the moment it is least equipped to handle additional demand. The fix is simple and costs nothing. Wait 90 minutes after waking before your first coffee. During that window, drink a glass of water first. Your body is mildly dehydrated after 7 or 8 hours of sleep and rehydrating, before caffeine reduces the blood pressure effect of the cortisol surge. You do not have to give up coffee. You simply need to shift it. 90 minutes later. Most people who make this change report that their coffee actually tastes better and gives them a more sustained energy lift because it is landing on a cortisol curve that is already declining rather than amplifying one that is already at its peak. Habit number 3. Skipping breakfast or going straight into intense activity on an empty stomach. These are two versions of the same underlying problem, so I am addressing them together. Let us start with skipping breakfast. Intermittent fasting has genuine metabolic benefits for many people. I am not dismissing that research. But the specific pattern of going to bed after dinner, waking up, skipping breakfast, and then eating your first meal at noon or later creates a prolonged fasting window that puts specific stress on the heart after 60. Here is why. After a night of sleep with no food intake, blood glucose is already at its daily low point. When you skip breakfast and extend that fast into the late morning, glucose falls further. Your body responds by releasing more cortisol and glucagon to maintain blood sugar, adding to the cortisol surge that is already elevated from waking. For someone with any degree of insulin resistance, which is extremely common after 60 and often undiagnosed, this prolonged low blood sugar period creates metabolic stress that the cardiovascular system absorbs directly. Additionally, extended fasting into the morning increases platelet aggregation, the tendency of blood cells to clump together and form clots. An elevated clotting tendency in the morning during the cortisol surge, when blood pressure is already at its daily peak, is the exact combination that underlies most morning heart attacks. The research on breakfast and cardiovascular health in older adults is consistent. A study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that adults who skipped breakfast had a significantly higher risk of cardiovascular mortality than those who ate a morning meal, independent of other dietary habits. Now, the second version of this problem: intense exercise immediately after waking on an empty stomach. If you wake up, skip food, and go straight into a vigorous workout, running, cycling, a high-intensity class, you are doing the following simultaneously. You are in the peak cortisol window with elevated heart rate and blood pressure from the morning surge. You are in a low blood sugar state from overnight fasting. You are adding significant cardiovascular demand from intense exercise. And your blood is at its most prone to clotting. Every one of those factors independently raises cardiac risk. Combined, they create a genuine danger window, particularly for someone over 60 with any underlying cardiovascular disease, most of which is silent and undiagnosed. The fix is not to stop exercising. Exercise is one of the most important things you can do for your heart. The fix is to eat something small before you exercise in the morning and to begin your workout gently before moving into higher intensity. A banana and a glass of water 15 to 20 minutes before your morning walk, a small bowl of oats before your swim, something simple that raises blood glucose slightly, reduces the clotting tendency, and gives your heart fuel before you ask it to work. If you prefer to exercise fasted for metabolic reasons, keep the morning session low intensity, walking, gentle yoga, light cycling. Save the high-intensity work for later in the day when cortisol has declined, blood sugar is stable, and your cardiovascular system has had several hours to settle from the morning surge. Habit number 4, ignoring warning signs and pushing through. This is the most dangerous habit on this list, and it is driven by something admirable: resilience, toughness, not wanting to be a burden. But after 60, it can cost you your life. Many heart attacks do not begin with the dramatic Hollywood chest grab. They begin quietly, often in the morning, with symptoms that are easy to explain away. A heaviness or tightness in the chest that you blame on heartburn or a bad night of sleep. Unusual fatigue when you wake up that you put down to not sleeping well. Shortness of breath getting out of bed that you attribute to aging. An ache in the jaw, shoulder, or upper back. Nausea that you blame on an empty stomach. Any one of these symptoms experienced in the morning should be taken seriously. All of them together is an emergency. The single most dangerous habit I see in patients over 60 is the habit of normalizing warning signals. Telling yourself it is nothing. Pushing through, getting dressed, making coffee, and trying to walk it off. The first 60 minutes of a heart attack are when the most muscle dies and when the risk of a fatal rhythm disturbance is highest. Every minute that treatment is delayed is heart muscle that cannot be saved. I am asking you to make one commitment today. If you wake up with symptoms that feel wrong, tightness in the chest, unusual fatigue, shortness of breath, jaw or arm pain, you do not walk it off. You do not wait to see if it passes. You call emergency services immediately and describe exactly what you are feeling. You are allowed to be wrong. Paramedics would far rather come out for a false alarm than arrive too late. The habit of pushing through morning symptoms is the one on this list that kills people who had no idea they were in danger. Let me bring everything together into one clear morning routine that actually protects your heart. When your alarm goes off, lie still for 30 to 60 seconds. Then sit up slowly. Sit on the edge of the bed for 30 seconds before standing. Give your cardiovascular system the transition time it needs. Then drink a full glass of water before anything else. Your body is mildly dehydrated from sleep and rehydrating. First blunts the blood pressure effect of the cortisol surge. Wait 90 minutes before your first coffee. Use that window to eat a small breakfast, eggs, oats, a banana, Greek yogurt. Something that raises blood glucose gently, reduces morning clotting tendency, and gives your heart the fuel it needs. If you exercise in the morning, eat something small first. Begin gently and build intensity gradually. Save high-intensity training for later in the day. And if anything feels wrong, a heaviness in the chest, unusual fatigue, shortness of breath, jaw or shoulder pain, stop. Do not push through. Call for help immediately. That is the complete morning protocol. Lie still on waking. Sit before standing. Water before coffee. Coffee 90 minutes after waking. Small breakfast before exercise. Take warning signs seriously. None of this costs money. None of it requires equipment. Each step takes seconds to implement, and together they dramatically reduce the cardiovascular strain that the morning hours place on your heart after 60. Let me also address something important about medications. If you take blood pressure medication and you currently take it in the morning, ask your doctor specifically about the timing. Research from the Hygia chronotherapy trial found that taking blood pressure medication in the evening rather than the morning significantly reduced cardiovascular events, including heart attack and stroke. The reasoning is that evening dosing provides maximum medication effect during the nighttime and early morning hours when blood pressure naturally surges. That is a 2-minute conversation with your doctor that could be one of the most important medical discussions you have this year. If you take a statin for cholesterol, most statins are also more effective when taken in the evening because the liver produces more cholesterol at night. Again, a question worth raising at your next appointment. One final thought before you go. After 60, your heart has been working continuously for over 500,000 hours. It has never once asked for a day off. The morning is the most vulnerable part of its day. The cortisol surge, the blood pressure spike, the increased clotting tendency. These are biological realities that you cannot change. What you can change is whether you add 4 additional stressors on top of them, or whether you give your heart the 30 minutes of gentle transition it needs before the demands of the day begin. The choice happens every morning, before you throw back the covers, before you reach for your phone, before the first cup of coffee. Your heart has kept every appointment for 60 years or more. Give it the morning it deserves. Please subscribe to this channel. I post new videos to help you stay healthy. Thank you for watching. Take care of your heart.